Can you still be happy when you've lost everything? You know what's wild? The question isn't really, can you be happy when everything falls apart? The question is, am I allowed to feel even slightly okay when I have nothing left to show for myself? And here's the thing. Most people who ask this aren't actually at rock bottom yet. They're exhausted from preventing rock bottom. They've been holding up the ceiling with their bare hands for years, and they're just so tired. So when everything finally collapses, the job, the relationship, the health, the role you've been playing, there's this bizarre moment where you think, oh, I don't have to pretend anymore. And that's not happiness. Not yet. But it's the first breath you've taken in years that wasn't borrowed against future performance. Here's what nobody tells you about losing everything. It's not the loss that breaks you. It's the expectation that you'll immediately recover, rebuild, and prove you're still useful. But when you truly hit the bottom, and I mean the kind where there's no one waiting for you to bounce back, no resume to update, no role to fill, something strange happens. You stop being a function. You're not the provider, the partner, the achiever, the stable one. You're just a person who woke up today. And somehow that's both terrifying and weirdly liberating. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've been carrying a backpack full of rocks labelled responsibilities, expectations, other people's needs. You've been climbing a mountain with this thing strapped to you since you were a teenager. Then one day, the straps break, the backpack falls, and you're standing there thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die without this weight. But then you notice your knees don't hurt as much. Your breathing slows. And for the first time in forever, you can actually look around instead of just staring at the next step. That's not the same as reaching the summit, but it's the first time you're not actively being crushed. So what does happiness look like when you have nothing? Not fireworks, not living your best life. It looks like making yourself tea because you wanted to, not because you had to stay functional, sitting in the sun for 10 minutes and noticing it feels nice, not checking your phone to see if you're still valuable to someone, realizing that today didn't get worse, and that's actually kind of a win. It's happiness in lowercase, quiet, almost forgettable, but it's real. Here's the part that might sound controversial. The reason you can feel happy with nothing is because you're finally not being graded. When you had the job, the partner, the health, the status, every day was a performance review. Every moment was a chance to fail the test of am I enough? But when there's nothing left to lose, the test is over. You didn't pass. But you also can't f anymore. And weirdly, that's when your nervous system stops screaming at you. Real talk. This isn't about mindset or gratitude journals. If someone tells you just be grateful for what you have when you've lost everything, they're not helping. They're just uncomfortable with your pain. What actually happens is much slower and quieter. You start noticing you're still breathing. Then you notice you can still move. Then maybe you feed yourself something warm. Then you realize no one's punishing you for not being productive today. These aren't achievements. They're just moments where the panic stops chasing you for a second. And over time, those seconds add up. The weird truth about rebuilding. You don't rebuild by setting huge goals or getting back out there. You rebuild by doing ridiculously small things that don't prove anything to anyone. Washing one dish, walking to the corner store, sitting outside for 5 minutes, petting a dog. These things don't go on a resume. They don't fix your life. But they remind you that you can still interact with the world even when you're not performing for it. And that interaction, that tiny thread of connection, is where happiness starts to creep back in. Not because you've earned it, just because you're still here. So can you be happy when you've lost everything? Yes, but not in the way you think. You won't feel successful. You won't feel complete. You might not even feel okay most days. But you might feel something else. Relief that you don't have to keep pretending. Surprise that the sun still feels warm. A weird sense of calm that comes from realizing the worst has already happened and you're still breathing. That's not the happiness they sell you in movies, but it's the kind that doesn't need anything from you. It just exists quietly in the corners of the worst days. And sometimes that's enough. Final thought, if you're asking this question, you're probably already carrying too much, and you're probably terrified of what happens if you stop. But here's the secret. The moment you stop being useful to everyone else is the first moment you get to just be. And being, just existing without a purpose, without a role, without proving anything might be the most rebellious, quiet, unshakable form of happiness there is. You don't need permission for it. You just need to let yourself stop running long enough to notice it's there.